Hello, brothers and sisters in Christ. We shall resume our reading throughout the book of Revelation, and we shall be reading chapter 18 together. After these things I saw another angel coming down from heaven, having great authority, and the earth was illuminated with his glory. Verse 2, And he cried mightily with a loud voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and has become a dwelling place of demons, a prison for every foul spirit, and a cage for every unclean and hated bird. Verse 3, For all the nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. The kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth have become rich through the abundance of her delicacy. Verse 4, And I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, lest you share in her sins, and lest you receive of her plagues. I must note here that this verse 4 in the 18th chapter of the book of Revelation has spoken to me personally, when it said, Come out of her, my people, lest you share in her sins, and lest you receive of her plagues. When it's saying, Come out of her, to me, it was telling me, come out of the Catholic religion, come out of Catholicism. In Catholicism, there is worship of idols. Idolatry is a sin. It is breaking one of God's cardinal commandments. Third commandment says, Thou shalt not have any graven images. But that third commandment was changed completely to something else in the religion of Catholicism, something that is not quite the same as Thou shalt not have graven images, in such a way that people in the Catholic religion worship idols without feeling any guilt. Unknowingly or knowingly, it is a sin. It's breaking one of God's cardinal commandments. Come out of her, my people, lest you share in her sins. It is idolatry to worship, to venerate Mary. It is idolatry to worship saints, people who lived on earth and now died. It's idolatry to pray to dead people. It's called necromancy, praying to dead people. It is idolatry to believe. It's a big lie to believe that Mary will intercede for you between you and God. Mary is not an intercessor. The only intercessor for mankind is Jesus Christ. And Apostle Paul tells us clearly of this. Come out of her, my people, lest you share in her sins. What sins? These countless people, the millions of people, we're talking millions of people who were martyred, were killed, were burned at stake for having a Bible, and were being accused as heretics for not following the doctrine of Catholicism, and lest you receive of her plagues. What other sins in the Catholic religion? The pedophile ring, the pedophilia that is rampant. Come out of her, my people, lest you share of her sins. And as for the second verse where it says, Babylon the great is fallen, and has become a dwelling place of demons, a prison for every foul spirit, and a cage for every unclean and hated bird. You must know that Rome is infested, has unprecedented levels of unclean animals, particularly rats. They have 6 million rats as opposed to New York having 1.5 million. Imagine Rome has 6 million rats, and the mayor of Rome is thinking of importing 500,000 cats into Rome. But anyway, I digress. Let's proceed. Verse 5. For her sins have reached to heaven, and God has remembered her iniquities. Verse 6. Render to her just, as she rendered to you, and repay her double according to her works, in the cup which she has mixed double for her. Verse 7. In the measure that she glorified herself and lived luxuriously, in the same measure give her torment and sorrow. For she says in her heart, I sit as a queen, and am no widow, and will not see sorrow. Verse 8. Therefore her plagues will come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she will be utterly burned with fire, for strong is the Lord God who judges her. Verse 9. The kings of the earth who committed fornication and lived luxuriously with her will weep and lament for her when they see the smoke of her burning. Verse 10. Standing at a distance for fear of her torment, saying, Alas, alas, that great city of Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour your judgment has come. Verse 11. And the merchants of the earth will weep and mourn over her, for no one buys their merchandise any more. What merchandise? What are these Marian apparitions? Isn't it a ploy for tourism? To Fatima, to Lourdes, and to Medjugorje, all 3 places in Yugoslavia, all 3 places in Europe? What merchandise? Merchandise of gold and silver, precious stones and pearls, fine linen and purple, silk and scarlet, every kind of citron wood, every kind of object of ivory, every kind of object of most precious wood, bronze, iron, and marble. Verse 13. And cinnamon and incense, fragrant oil and frankincense, wine and oil, fine flour and wheat, cattle and sheep, horses and chariots, and bodies and souls of men. Verse 14. The fruit that your soul longed for has gone from you, and all the things which are rich and splendid have gone from you, and you shall find them no more at all. Verse 15. The merchants of these things, who became rich by her, will stand at a distance for fear of her torment, weeping and wailing. Verses 16. And saying, Alas, alas, that great city that was clothed in fine linen, purple and scarlet, and adorned with gold, and precious stones and pearls. Verse 17. For in 1 hour such great riches came to nothing. Every shipmaster, all who travel by ship, sailors, and as many as trade on the sea, stood at a distance. Verse 18. And cried out when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, What is like this great city? Verse 19. They threw dust on their heads, and cried out, weeping and wailing, and saying, Alas, alas, that great city, in which all who had ships on the sea became rich by her wealth, for in 1 hour she is made desolate. Verse 20. Rejoice over her, O heaven, and you, holy apostles and prophets, for God has avenged you on her. Verse 21. Then a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone, and threw it into the sea, saying, Thus with violence the great city Babylon shall be thrown down, and shall not be found any more. Verse 22. The sound of harpists, musicians, flutists, and trumpeters shall not be heard in you any more. No craftsman of any craft shall be found in you any more, and the sound of a millstone shall not be heard in you any more. This verse makes me think of the daughter of Babylon. Babylon has daughters. One of the daughters of Babylon is America, the United States, when it refers to the sound of harpists, musicians, flutists, and trumpeters shall not be heard in you any more. It reminds me of Hollywood. No craftsman of any craft shall be found in you anymore. Isn't the United States one of the great exporters of pornography? Verse 23, the light of light shall not shine in you anymore, and the voice of bridegroom and bride shall not be heard in you anymore. For your merchants were the great men of the earth, for by your sorcery all the nations were deceived. Verse 24, and in her was found the blood of prophets and saints, and of all who were slain on the earth. But then again, when I read this verse 24, and in her was found the blood of prophets and saints, and of all who were slain on the earth. Who slew millions and millions of people for believing upon the Bible and for refusing to believe what the Catholic indoctrination has tried to put upon them? Who has slew all these people? Millions, I'm telling you, millions. Only one beast. The Catholic religion, the so-called Catholic Church. I hope this 18th chapter of the book of Revelation has blessed you. Until we meet again to read the 19th chapter, God bless you.